Welcome to a very special episode of the Pineapple Perspective with your host, Troy Hooper. That's me. I'm Troy Hooper. This is always sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants. And if you're interested in the next best, hottest, quite literally, franchise opportunity in the industry, check out pepperlunchrestaurants.com/franchise for more information. Today, I have not one, but two very special guests. We've only done this once before on the show where we had Diego and Cameron from Greener Pastures Chicken on at the same time. But this is a great idea that these ladies brought to me. And I thought, yes, of course, why not? We should do this. We have Ashley Carlson, the founder and CEO of Elevate Business Solutions, and her lead EA, Nichole Hughes. And that's a very big understatement because Nichole is much more than any kind of head or lead EA out there. She's an extraordinary human being and has saved my life quite literally for a couple of years. So these ladies join us together because we're going to talk about how services like theirs, and it's not just one thing, many services that they offer, can help executives like us, me, and others that listen to this show really amplify and level up themselves personally, themselves professionally, and the results in their business by being a tremendous support mechanism. That's the purpose of the show. That's why we have these two great ladies. But let's say hi. Welcome, Ashley and Nichole.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Very happy to do so. Great idea. It was your idea. So glad that you guys came up with this and looking forward to really bringing value as we always try to do to our audience. But Ashley and Nichole, you know the drill. We always start the show by asking, what does hospitality mean to you? And we want to elevate the idea that even your business, a service business to professionals, a B2B environment, can also be hospitable. So we'll start with Ashley. What does hospitality mean to you?
Yeah, I actually really love this question because my history career has always actually been in the hospitality industry. I have had multiple jobs in the hotel industry. I was at a golf course for a while, so a lot of events and catering, all of that. I worked in a hotel spa at one point. So I actually am very familiar with the traditional hospitality industry when people think of it. And it's actually really amazing to see how my experience in the hospitality industry has transitioned to Elevate. I think hospitality at its core is just people. And it's helping people, solving problems, making sure they're having a wow experience in whatever your service you're providing. And so I think that that is really important in what we do at Elevate, not only what we provide to our clients, but the opportunities that we see in our own clients' businesses to have extraordinary hospitality as well, because I think that's kind of what it is at its core, is just helping people have a really great experience in whatever it is.
Nichole, your perspective?
I think hospitality is a people business. That's my background is in the healthcare industry. And so when you're in the healthcare industry, you are dealing with people face to face every single day. And it's making sure that they walk out of the office or your building or your restaurant knowing that they experience something that will have them come back to you. And so in the medical field, that's a huge thing. People are afraid of the dentist. They don't want to go to the doctor's office. And so you need to make sure that the second they walk in the door, they experience something. And whether that's just kindness or if it's a smile, you have to experience something that will make you remember what happened there. And I think it goes the same in any business, specifically restaurants, and in the field that Ashley and I are in.
Yeah, no, great answer. But we always tend to follow that up with, where did you come up with your answer? Where did that thesis, where did that belief system get formulated, whether in your childhood or in your professional career? Ashley, great answer, but where does that come from? How did that come to be how you view your business and providing hospitality in your business?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's actually always just been a core of who I am. I've learned that along the years of the different personality tests and things that you can do. I've realized why hospitality and what we do, customer service, has always felt so innate to me. It feels very natural. So I think just in general, I've always been a helper. I want people to feel special and heard and have a good experience, whatever it is that I'm helping them with. I think that's why I've just always been drawn to that type of role. So I think for me, it's just kind of been a part of me all along.
Nichole?
I would have to say the same thing. I'm just a people person. And based on a lot of the different personality, we did the Clifton Strengths training a couple of months back. And I am a big cheerleader. I'm a big supporter for people to succeed at what they're doing, whether it is small or big. And so I think it's just something that is in me. And I've always been a people person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very obvious in the results. All right. So let's talk about, I'm going to do this a little bit backwards. Normally we leave the infomercial at the end, but I think the foundation of what you do and the purpose that you ladies have and how you go about your business every day needs a little context about what Elevate is. And then, full disclosure, I hired Elevate 2 years ago, or just slightly shy of 2 years ago, when I was looking for an executive assistant, a virtual executive assistant. I had never in my career of 30 years at that time had a professional executive assistant or assistant really meaningfully of any kind. And I found you guys coincidentally on LinkedIn, not coincidental for me, but coincidental because we lived in the same town, and found out months later, at least I did, that Ashley's business was founded and Nichole was from, the town that I lived in. Although I found them on the internet, World Wide Web, as they say. But Ashley, tell us a little bit about what Elevate is and why you even founded it and what your purpose is.
Yeah, sure. That's a lot of questions actually. So I'll give it as best as I can quickly. So I founded Elevate because I again come from a history of wanting to help others. And I also come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I have seen firsthand the overwhelm and burnout and just stress that can come from not having help. And so I decided to do this business, and I did it solo for a while, and then I just in 2021 realized that I was ready to build a team, and so that's where Elevate itself was born. And basically our goal is to help busy executives in large corporations or small to medium sized businesses, the founders, the CEOs, really find balance and learn how to delegate successfully. I approach our fractional EA services not just with the getting the stuff done, but also really truly partnering and helping the business owner like you, Troy, who hasn't delegated all those years. How do you do it successfully? How do you delegate things to someone who can focus on those admin things, really manage you and your schedule so you can show up and do so much more for your business, and also just find balance. A lot of the times I think that people feel like they're running on this hamster wheel and they have lost balance in their life as a whole with their family, or they're just not able to grow the business because of the lack of time, just too much on their plate. So for me, that's what I feel really passionately about, and that's what Elevate does. So to answer, I think one of your questions, so we support our clients on a fractional basis. So people who aren't quite ready for a full-time EA or even a part-time EA, we are fractional, meaning super part-time, but we can grow up to part-time, and it's not an employee that you have to hire. We're ready to jump into businesses. This is what we do. We also do bookkeeping, and I do operational strategy.
And we'll leave the ancillary new business that you're managing for me is podcast production.
Yes.
Full management. I now refer to Nichole as my talent manager, which is super weird to say. But when people talk to me about speaking opportunities outside of a podcast, I kind of refer to her that. So there's a lot there, a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But Nichole, I want to jump around a little bit in a way that I'm empathizing with the audience. When you think of a fractional executive assistant, you think of this part-time email and calendar management person, right? But the reality of what you offer and your team offers is so much more than that. And from my experience, you don't know what you don't know until somebody tells you that they can take something off your plate or be additive. Hey, I see you're working on a project, or I see you have a deadline, or I see you have this multi-person campaign that you need to work on. I can be additive in that thing that you're trying to accomplish, let me be a part of that. And it's not something I would have thought, hey, let me come to you and say, can you be a part of this team? Can you be an integral ingredient to the success of this recipe or whatever it was we were doing? I think that is a change of a mindset that I had to be shown. So talk a little bit, Nichole, about those things outside the box, those around the periphery that folks like me don't think is something you can offer, but that, strategically you can really be an important element of.
Yeah, I think that the difference between just hiring an EA off of like Fiverr or something like that or Upwork is with Elevate specifically, the way that we've structured everything is we're not just an EA, we're more of a strategic partner with you. So we're building a partnership. It's not just, oh, I'm here to answer your email or I'm here to do an inbox management and make sure your calendar is up to date. No, we're going to look at your calendar for the next 3 months and we're going to say, hey, you've got all of these things. You don't have the time for it. How can we make this better for you so you can also focus on your CEO time or your family time? Because we all know you guys are very busy. I've seen your calendar for 2 years now. You have a lot of things on your calendar, but you also need to dedicate time to yourself for CEO work time. And you also need to dedicate time for your family, because otherwise there's no work-life balance. And that's the goal, is to be able to enjoy the time that you have when you're not on the clock per se. But I think there's so many different things. So one of the things is customer service. Yes, we're not talking to your customers, but there are a lot of vendors that we're in communication with. We can set up everything for a conference. We can do all of the research. We can have all of those communications prior to the conference and have everything in order. There's also personal tasks. Are you going on a vacation? We can do all the research. We can set up an itinerary. We can do dinner reservations. Gifting. A lot of people think of gifting as like, oh, we were just going to send a holiday gift. No, we can look at what you have in terms of your team as well as your network. And we could do anniversary gifts. Maybe somebody's having a baby. We could do birthday presents. The list goes on and on as far as what we can do in terms of supporting the CEO or the business lead or the head of the department so that they can focus on what they can only focus on.
Yeah, I think that's where the additive piece is, right? It's the things that I would love to do, write a thank you card to 74 phone calls from today, or Zooms or whatever, but it just doesn't happen. It's like the things that aren't going to happen. And as well intended as the effort is, it's just you've got to have help. And to your point, apparently I only go on vacation places Nichole has already been. So I have fantastic dinner reservation recommendations already, activities already planned. It's been fantastic. So from now on, I only go places Nichole knows a lot about. But no, I mean, back to your point of the additive piece, though, it's the amplification and addition to the team that takes something you want to be able to do or pull off or need to do, and it gets done better, right? I think it's a strategic partnership that you're looking proactively ahead. I mean, time blocking is a big thing. I used to be very good at it years ago, but now I've just sort of in that overwhelm mode needed help with time blocking. And, Nichole looked at my life and said, look, I think you need a little more structure and you need to set the time aside to get the things you're trying to do late at night and on the weekends. Why don't we buy some of that time back and just be a little bit more thoughtful? So thank you for all that, because that's been extremely important. Ashley, it's not what you guys do, it's really how you do it. I think that's been remarkable for me. Talk a little bit about your mindset it's a very competitive space. For 2 years, I don't get hit up anymore as much, but I used to get hit up every day for virtual executive services and assistant services. Talk a little bit about how Elevate is different, and your mindset as an owner and a founder has been different about how you do this. Because I think you guys do it differently from what I've seen out there as what's been offered by a lot of overseas companies and virtual only kind of companies. Talk a little bit about the how more than the what.
Yeah, sure. So I think that for us, Nichole touched on it a little bit. We really want to become partners with our clients. I genuinely, when I have conversations with clients who are potential signing on, I want to make sure that they're a good fit for us, that we are aligned with their mission and what they're trying to do, and that the possibility of us supporting can help them get there. And I think that it's really important for us to feel excited about that and set up for success. I also take a lot of intentional time leading up to them starting with their EA to get them ready to delegate successfully. We do some time audit exercises. We go through asking them what do you do every day, every week, every month that doesn't have to be done by you. I think that's a really big question, and kind of you and Nichole already touched on it, but just really getting in that habit of identifying what can be delegated. We have account managers who are always checking in to see how things are going. There's much more on the back end of our own business that's going on to ensure the relationship is successful and that the client is feeling supported. It is not just a book it and forget it situation. I'm always checking in. We want to see if there's anything else we can do to support, whether that's from our own company or someone we can refer to. So I think that it's just that we genuinely care, and that we also hold each other accountable, right? I think that we pay close attention to how things are going, and if there's big or small gaps, we address them quickly. Our goal is that everyone is feeling like good in the partnership, and that the business ultimately is going forward for the client. That's what we exist for.
Yeah, I mean, Nichole and I had this experience, and I'm going to piggyback off of what you were really saying there, Ashley, is it is about fit. And if you go to hire a full-time in-person assistant, you really just don't know until you get into the relationship. And in this virtual environment, there's an opportunity, if necessary, to make a change if it just doesn't fit. And it may not be fit of personality or skill set. It may be that there's a realization that the executive needs certain things from a skill perspective or a competency perspective that somebody else in a team like yours might be better suited for. And Nichole and I had this experience. I started with Elevate with a different EA, right? And after a number of months or a couple of months, your team realized I was a lot higher maintenance, higher necessity needs person than maybe that person's sort of skills matched for. And so you guys came to me and said, hey, we think there needs to be a change here. And we're going to take one of our A players, the head lady over here, Nichole, and she's going to work, on your account. She's going to work with you. And boy, was that a game changer. So Nichole, talk a little bit about that, about the advantage of being able to make a change within an organization or this team approach, because really it is a bit, as Ashley highlighted there, with a team approach with somebody who's always checking in, even aside from you being the head, EA over there. There's still an opportunity for multiple people to have eyes on this relationship and make sure that it's successful, not only for me, but for your side as well.
Yeah, I think with the difference with Elevate and the way that we have everything structured. So it's not just, you just don't have a dedicated EA who is supporting you day in and day out. You have an entire team behind that EA. So as Ashley had mentioned, you have account managers who are there for the client and EA relationship. They're not just supporting the EA, they're not just supporting the client. They're making sure that that partnership is long lasting and is evolving as your business may be evolving. There may be new things that need to be delegated. So they're working with you alongside the EA, which I think makes a huge difference, because there's such a collaborative aspect to Elevate, and we have so many team members who may have better skills than I do, because that's their zone of genius, whereas I may focus and be sharper on something else. But I can always reach out to the other people on my team and say, hey, who's great at this or who loves doing this, because I need some assistance. And there's always somebody there to raise their hand and say, yeah, I've got you, or this is the recommendation. This is what I've experienced in the past. And then I can take that information and bring it to you and elevate the task that I'm doing there. I think that being able to pivot in any business, especially when you're in a customer service business, whether that's restaurant or EA support, you need to be able to pivot when you see things that aren't going well, or maybe there's a gap there. And so having your account managers and having Ashley and Amanda, who's our manager of partnership success, step in and say, okay, we see this gap. How do we fix it before it becomes something that's no longer fixable? So it's just being solution driven in this business. And sometimes that includes pivots. And that's just the way that it goes.
Yeah, I think one of the things I want other executives to hear in this conversation is the difference between proactive and reactive. I think that's one of the surprising elements of your guys' competency, is that you look for things that you can be helpful to. That was not something I expected. I expected to be task delegating and always having to have something for you to do, and having a list, and then checking in and make sure that list got done. That is not at all what that relationship turned out to be. And I think what executives need to hear is that when you have the right solution and partnership in place, you can sort of take your hands off that wheel, let go, and let the proactiveness of what you do jump in and, like you said, fill those gaps, find those opportunities, make things more efficient. That was really a surprise, and a pleasant one. So I want people listening to hear that there becomes a moment where you realize, oh, I don't have to control that. I don't have to manage that. And look, I delegate very well to my team members who work in our executive team and our leadership team, because I understand their competency. They have a very specific role. You do this. I know you know that really well, and I'm going to give you the tools and resources you need to do your job really well, but then I'm going to let you do your job and check in with you. That's very different from delegating my stuff that is meant for me to do and get done and accomplish and be good at. And in order for me to do that, it just comes to task load management, and there's just too much. And understanding that I can give it up, but then having somebody who understands over time where they can step in and take it from me, that was a big surprise.
Yeah, I think that we talk a lot about that with clients in the beginning. It's that feeling of when you have too much on your plate, and even when you do start delegating to someone, you don't want it to be what's keeping you up at 2 o'clock in the morning anymore, right? Like, you want it to be that you're able to give true full ownership of whatever it might be. And that's something that, exactly what you just said, that we really focus on getting to and giving to our clients eventually. As you see, like in your relationship with Nichole, that's our goal, is that you truly feel the weight of whatever the workload is that she's taking on for you. We want to get there. We don't want to just be the task doers and have you constantly feeling like you're managing us. We want you to feel like someone is helping manage you and your life, and give you that weight off your shoulders. So I think that that's the goal for us.
It takes time, it takes trust, but
Yes.
it comes.
Yep.
And when it comes, it is a very relieving thing, I can assure you. But yeah, there's a little bit of a limit there too. In this environment, there is a capacity. There's a ceiling, right, as to what the intent of this service is, as far as it is not 80 hours a week. It is not on call 24/7, 365. It is not that person waiting for you at the airport with your Starbucks latte. And, I think, but this is more strategic. This is more high level. This is more solving problems and putting things in place. Nichole, to that point, talk a little bit about the role technology plays and how you implement the use of different technology, and how you get me to use technology, setting up my Calendly, which I wanted to do for years and never did because I never took the time to set it up and understand how it works. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so technology plays a huge role. And I think in any business, whether it's in person or remote, but in a remote world, there's so many different platforms, whether that's communication platforms like Slack or platforms like Asana or ClickUp or Notion, that you can have a team all over the country and you guys can still stay on track and you can still communicate on a regular basis, whether that's face-to-face through a Zoom meeting or using the Slack platform, or if it's just texting comms through the Slack platform. But I think that it allows us to continue to have efficiency and productivity without interruption, because you're not waiting for that in-person meeting. You're not waiting for somebody to hand you a document. You've got Google Workspace, you've got Dropbox. There's so many different document management systems where you can put the information for somebody to access. And once it's there, it's accessible from everybody who needs eyes on it, or everybody who needs to edit or, upload to a different platform. So technology really allows you in this specific setting to be on the go and to have people all over. Because I know for you specifically, you're in conferences a lot. So there's a lot of times where you're not at a computer, but these apps are also available on your phone. So if there's something that an EA or somebody else on your team needs you to have eyes on immediately, you can access it without interrupting your conference, without missing that keynote speaker, without missing that important dinner with one of the networking people that might be, starting a new franchise, whatever it may be. It allows you to have that flexibility while still staying productive.
Yeah. Live document sharing has changed my life, and I'm a huge advocate. I'm still trying to get our teams to use it and understand when you save, don't save as. Please don't save a version of this because now you're creating a different iteration. Please stay in the live doc. Let's all collaborate there. Let's share this shit. Sending stuff back and forth by email has got to stop. So, that and the pinning and bookmarking inside of Slack, life-changing. My biggest thing is, where is that? I have to ask people all the time, where is that? So I just tell them, pin it in Slack under this channel so that I know where to go look for it when it comes to mind next time. Really, really valuable tools, many of them. And back to time blocking, the Calendly management of my calendar, huge value opportunity that changed a lot of things for me. Ashley, talk, I think one of the things that executives have to get over is this idea of in-person versus virtual, that somebody has to be there with you to do things. Look, I don't need anybody to go collect my dry cleaning. I need somebody that knows my dry cleaning offers free pickup and delivery and set that up for me so I stop stressing about picking up my dry cleaning, right? There's other ways to solve the same problem. So talk a little bit about that anxiety that people are thinking about hiring an EA, but worry about the virtual versus in-person or full-time versus fractional.
Sure. I think that a lot of what Nichole just said is a huge part of it is just using technology to your advantage. But I think the big thing is clear expectations. I think that is I think some of it, what I tell clients, that I think your instinct is to micromanage when you're delegating the first time, because like I think you mentioned earlier, it feels scary to give up your stuff. It's your baby, it's your business, you're bleeding it, you're breathing it, it's your blood, sweat, and tears, right? So it feels very scary to give a piece of that to somebody. And I think that part of the in-person thing is feeling a little bit more control over it. And so we actually talk with clients a lot about how to avoid micromanaging. And if you at first just need a daily end of day update of what they've done and what they're working on tomorrow and what they need from you, we'll do that. If you need it just once a week, or if you just need a quick 15-minute phone call every day, or a once a week meeting, whatever that is, we will help you understand what is going to help you feel better about delegating, because you don't have to be in an office. And I think that a lot of people have seen that since 2020 when the world had to go remote. I think that there's a lot more acceptance and understanding that it doesn't have to be someone right in front of you, but there is still a hesitation of just delegating in general, but especially remotely. And so we help work through that with, like I said, just clear expectations of, here's what I need you to let me know, however often, whichever way. So that way I'm not feeling that anxiousness of, did it get done? Did it get done the way I want? We want plenty of opportunities for feedback. And, we're very open to feedback. I think feedback's really important. And so being able to set those expectations that feedback will be given so we can adjust and pivot, like Nichole said. So I think it's just making sure that all that's set into start. And like you said, Troy, once it takes time, but eventually you don't need those daily updates. Maybe it now goes weekly. And, I think it's a muscle that has to be flexed. And then we will also always tell clients when we feel like it's time for them to graduate from Elevate and head into a full-time in-person if that's what they need. We also, something that we do that I think helps with this too, is we write SOPs with everything we do. We want to build, you mentioned earlier, it's not just a task doer, right? Like we're not just getting it done. We really are trying to build the foundations of your business. And I think that also helps alleviate that anxiety of wanting someone in front of you or micromanaging. Is by standard, what we do is anything we do more than once, we're going to make a checklist, a template, an SOP, and you're going to, as you work with us, you're building this whole library of how to run the operations side of my business. So that way down the road, when you grow, when roles and responsibilities shifts, the idea there is that we can shift too, and maybe some of what we have goes to that person, but you're not involved in the training. We wrote it, we can train them, you're good. So I think it just is that time that it takes. And we help baby step there.
Well, you read my mind because I was going to say, bonus question. There is a world where you train me so well that I learn how to use you so well that then I need you more than you can give in this business model of fractional and part time. And I love that when I learned the term graduate, that, hey, Troy, we think you're probably ready to graduate. You need more than we can offer in time and scope. And so we think you need to get somebody else involved in a full-time capacity because you've gotten good enough at using us that there's more for somebody else to do. So talk a little bit about that transition. You sort of allude to it there, but how do you know, how do I know, and how do you know when it's really time to graduate and maybe even amend the role that Elevate can play beyond that graduated sort of environment?
Yeah, we pay really close attention to what we're working on, the scope of work, the amount of work, how fast the business itself is growing. If there's, because we are fractional, our team members do support multiple clients in order for them to get to their full-time role. And so we pay a lot of attention to the workload and what we are able to do. And so sometimes it's very clear to us as we're communicating, and Nichole alluded to it before, that we collaborate really closely all the time on accounts. And so we can pretty much tell when it's getting there, it's coming time, that the client and their business has outgrown. But oftentimes we've also helped the person find someone to fill the role, but we can still support with other things in order for that new person, like an office manager, for example, who does need to be there in person full time, 40 hours a week, but there's still so much that operationally needs to get done that doesn't have to be done by that person. So we can still maintain our, role in some way, a piece of it remotely, in order for everyone to feel more effective in their roles. So there also can be that, right, where it's a graduation, but we still are around to help. So I'm sure Nichole can speak to that since she specifically helped you with it.
Yeah, I think when I realized that we were ready to graduate was when I was exceeding the number of hours that we had in our retainer consistently with additional delegated tasks and things that I was identifying that I could no longer support because I just didn't have the bandwidth for it. So I think that a lot of CEOs, and when you're in a relationship with an EA and a partnership with an EA, and you're looking at, if you feel more comfortable delegating additional tasks to me or your EA, it might, especially a fractional EA, it might be time to graduate. And so I think that when we talked about it, because I actually brought it up to you, and I was like, hey, I love that you're delegating additional tasks to me, but I think it might be time to look for somebody that can support you and Pepper Lunch in a longer term, more full-time situation, because there were additional people coming onto the team that were needing additional help. There were additional events that were happening that with the structure that we have at Elevate, I couldn't go any further. I was already supporting you with so many hours. But like I said, the addition to the Pepper Lunch team and the executive team, there just needed to be somebody else there that could support everybody on the team at a fuller capacity. And there, I helped alongside with looking and posting for the job, and then helped create, like Ashley said, those SOPs. So when she stepped into the role, I trained her, I walked through the tasks step by step. And because of the relationship and the partnership that we had, I shifted over just to podcast management. So I've still been there in some capacity where if there are times where she has questions, I'm there to answer them if need be, but I have let the reins go as far as supporting you on a day-to-day basis for the...
Yeah, we did transition her in during the absolute most insane week of my year. Luckily, that's going to go to an every 2-year environment, so she gets this year off. That's the National Restaurant Association show where my entire leadership from the global organization comes in, and we have a lot of things to do. But luckily, they've taken this year off, so it'll be a much more relaxed year. You definitely touched on the next and last subject, which is the podcasting. So back to additive. I had wanted to do a podcast or some show or some kind of content creation for years. And my media mentor, Sean Walchef, had been slapping me going, look, you hold a phone and you talk, and that's a show. So just do something, you're around people all the time. You have plenty of people to talk to. Just do it. And really for me, it wasn't about, it had to be perfect. It just, all of the things that go along with that needed to get done. And I didn't have that ecosystem. I didn't have that knowledge. And I just was going to keep punting it down the road. And you came to me with sort of this as a new solution opportunity, something you're providing as a new product at Elevate. So talk about this podcast in a box. I mean, at the end of the day, I show up like this conversation with the notes I need and a time slot set, and we have a conversation. And at the end of this conversation, I will hit stop and I will move on to the other things of my day, and I will not think about this. And then it will happen. It will get edited and it will get published and it will get promoted, all by Nichole and the support team on the podcast production side. So talk a little bit about that service.
Yeah, so we partner with Smart Podcast Solutions with Jess Mullanes, and she does all the production aspect of it. So when it comes to what Elevate does for podcast management, it's very similar to what we do with typical EA supports. We are handling all the operational and administrative tasks for a podcast. You shouldn't have to be worrying about, where am I going to schedule them? Where do I find their bio? Where do I find their headshot? Or the back and forth communication and trying to get something on the calendar. You had mentioned Calendly earlier. So we set up a workflow so that everything is seamless. They get on your calendar. I collect the information that I need. And like you said, you show up, you have everything set and ready to go. And then from there, Jess's team takes over, and once it's ready to publish, then I step back in and I start working on everything that I need to do for the actual episode drop. But it doesn't stop at just like getting the information that we need. I'm doing guest outreach. I am having the communication with people for external podcasts for you to be on and sending your information to them. So it's really just a cohesive podcast management between the production and then the administrative aspects of getting your voice and amplifying what you want to say out there.
Well, and consistency, I think, is one of the most important things in any content creation, campaign, marketing solution. In a podcast particularly, there's you set an expectation. There tends to be an expectation of, I'm going to publish, in our case, every Thursday morning. And that consistency is a lack of consistency by many people in this environment trying to self-manage it is what ends most shows. And most shows don't make it to 20. I think it's like only 2% of shows go past 20 episodes or something. And we're about to publish show 50 coming up. So we're almost a year of publishing, although we spent a couple of months setting it up. So I think we're over a year in working together on this. But yeah, it's a life changer. I'll say this about podcasting in general. If you're listening, I found my way to Pepper Lunch. Pepper Lunch found me because I did a podcast. I was a guest on a podcast that resulted in a meeting of a conversation by another executive at another hospitality company. And that had nothing to do with Pepper Lunch. It was just an organic conversation about our industry and our business. It resulted in a short-term development of a relationship online with a gentleman that I got to know. And 4 months later, somebody pinged him and said, hey, who do you know? I need help taking this brand to the United States from Japan and Asia. And he happened to be a classmate of his. And he said, I think you need to talk to Troy. So quite literally did a podcast, and 6 months later resulted in this opportunity where me and my team are at Pepper Lunch. When I think about our show and sort of the performance of our show, you don't only just set up the thing, but you manage the thing and you ensure the consistency and the quality is there. You manage the outside vendors, but you also manage the guest in a way that they really appreciate. I'll say that publicly, that almost every guest that comes on our show remarks back to us, either in an email or a message to me or whatnot, or to you, how professional this is being. We're all on shows. I probably appear on 30 podcasts a year as a guest. And so we live this. I live this. How do they manage me? Do I have the information I need to show up on time in the right place? Do I know what we're going to talk about? Do I know anything about the show and the purpose of the conversation, et cetera? Nichole and the team make this done so well and so professionally that we get compliments, and people ask us to refer Nichole and the team to them to consider them run their show because they do it so well. The experience for the guest is really elevated. And so, pun intended, by the way. Thank you so much for making that happen. Let's talk about how people can think about contacting you guys, talking to you guys, working with you guys. Throw out some ideas if people are struggling with what should they call Elevate. Go for it.
Yeah, I think that if there is any kind of overwhelm that you're experiencing in your business, if you're feeling stuck in the growth path forward, like you can't get there, you can't get to the next thing or to your goals in general, go on our website. There's a call or a link to book a call with me. I will have a conversation with you. We offer project-based services, ongoing services. You heard about the types of services. I offer also one-on-one strategy if maybe you don't need an implementer necessarily. So there's lots of different ways that we can help. And the point of that call is for me to identify what kind of help you need, if we are the right fit, or if someone we know and trust is the right fit. So ultimately, you will walk away from that call with some clarity on what you need and maybe what the right next step is. But I would love to connect with anyone who is just feeling that general sense of overwhelm. And even if it's just a question of, do I need help? Just reach out and I will let you know.
Nichole, where do they find Elevate?
You can find us everywhere. We're on LinkedIn, and then we've got Instagram. We're also on Facebook, but LinkedIn and Instagram are our main points of contact. We also have a blog where we share tips and tricks for calendar management, organization, anything that goes into business. That's where we're sharing all of our tips and tricks. So you can follow us there, and that's on our website as well. And then you can connect with Ashley and I on LinkedIn as well. And we share everything that Elevate shares. So,
and because this is done so professionally by them, there'll be links in the show notes.
Yes.
So look down in the description on whatever platform you're experiencing this on, and check out the links and go talk to these ladies and see if there isn't something in your business that they can support you on. Ladies, Ashley, Nichole, thank you so much for all of this, for the existence of this podcast, for the support that you all give me and my family and our businesses. And thanks for coming on the show and sharing your expertise and hopefully inspiring somebody to look for more help.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to The Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.